We're back again. The prints have dried, so now we're going to start working on the embellishment, I would call it. We're going to add some watercolour to the prints and some gilding. So first of all, we'll start off with the watercolours. I'm going to select areas of the print. Some of these sort of diamond shapes that I've got here, and add some colour into that. So bringing out some more detail that's lost in this one particular print. You could say it's a way of saving the image, really, saving the print. But we'll see what happens. So I'll just adjust the camera so you can see what I'm doing. And then we'll get cracking. Here we go. So as you can see, this is going to be the print that we're going to add the watercolour to. And the watercolours I'm using are just a set of half pan Winsor & Newton artist acrylic artist watercolours that I've had for many a year now. There's a lot more information on one of my other videos regarding watercolours that I use, and I'll try and add a link to that at some point during this video. So here we go. So I'm going to start off with some yellows, so just a touch of this yellow. Bring the print back, selecting one of the shapes and then just adding. I don't want too much colour in it, so I'm just going to keep it quite subtle. So choosing that particular shape there and just filling that in. So I'll do a couple in that colour. Let's put another one down here. I'm not going to fill the whole thing in because I want it to be a print. It is a print, it's not a watercolour. So I'm embellishing the print, just adding flashes of colour around and some gilding. So just changing the colour slightly. This is quite a fine brush I'm using. It's a number 1 Kolinsky Sable from Jackson's, but I feel for some of these shapes I need to go a little bit smaller, so I've got an O. I don't really use a double O. They become a bit too fine. If I can find it. There we go, yeah. So I'm selecting these all randomly, really, the shapes that I'm colouring in. So we're changing the colour now. Let's have. I'm going to keep within the sort of red-orange spectrum, really, of colours. This Somerset paper does hold the watercolour nicely. I've done quite a few watercolour paintings actually on the Somerset papers, and I think it's to do with the sizing. It is very similar to the range of watercolour papers that the company makes. I think it's St Cuthbert Mill. So I'm beginning to build up some shapes in colour and changing the painting, the print itself. So I'm keeping the colours soft, so I'm not the watercolour's not dominating the print. It's enhancing it. It's bringing out the form that I've got there. And I'm going to continue with this a little bit more, and then we'll come back, look at it, and then we'll go on to the gilding. Well, there we are. We've added the watercolour that I wanted, brought out this shape a little bit more. We're going to move on now to the gilding. You need to let this dry up a bit. There's some of these dots which are of quite a lot of water on them. Need to evaporate. It'll only take minutes, and then we'll move on to that. Here we are. These are the tools that I've got and I use for the gilding that I do. It's a method of gilding which is not a traditional method of gilding. It's just an easy way to do it, and I'm quite happy doing gilding this way. I've had some fair results with it. So let me go through them. So I've got gilding cushion for cutting the leaf into the size that I want, what usable size, which relates to the area where you're putting the leaf on the artwork. Obviously, if you're working with a little area, you don't want a whole big sheet of leaf, metal leaf, or gold. Even if you're using with gold, you've got to be as precious as you can, really. Gilding tip to pick up the cut leaf and transfer onto the paper. This is the metal leaf size that I use. It's an acrylic base, and I apply it by brush, just a fine brush. The gilding knife and a burnisher, just to make sure that the leaf is secure on the artwork. So let's put that to one side. So this is the leaf that I'm going to gild with today. It's one I've used before, and I think it's rather amazing, really beautiful. It isn't gold, has some treatment on it, and whether it's oxidization or not, I'm not sure. Let me see if I can just give you some idea of what it looks like. really amazing colours in it. So that's the size of leaf that we're going to be working with, and I'll take you through the process now. Right, I'm going to pour some of the size into a small little palette. I'm only working with small areas, so I don't need a great deal of this stuff out. And it does dry off and becomes quite sticky. That's enough, it's just a drop, that will do. Lid back on. Now the brushes I'm using are some, I wouldn't recommend you use your best brushes because they do clog up with this gold size. Size is basically a glue which you apply onto your artwork. It will then dry, or it will dry and become sticky, and then depending on the size itself, you have an open time before it goes too dry to apply the leaf onto. With this particular one, I understand that it will stay open for up to 24 hours, so it gives you plenty of time. I tend to work on a small area at a time. So I've got my size, I've got an old brush, it's an acrylic one that I use. I do tend to wet them a little bit first and dry them off, and I think that helps protect them really. So I'm going to be working in little areas around here and around here. Just taking it very slowly and steadily and applying it as such. I suppose really you could add a drop of, what can I say, watercolour or pigment or a little bit of ink, just a drop to give it some colour if you wanted, to help you see it a little bit better. But because I'm working in such small areas, I should be okay. One thing to remember with the brush is once you've used it, wash it out straight away, because it's like working with a latex gum or something like that, which does clog up the brush. So let's give it a go. So just like you were doing a normal painting, I'm applying it to areas where I want it to be gilded, obviously. I can hold it up to the light to see if I've got that area that I want. I think so. I think what I might do is do this one and then just add a drop of coloured acrylic ink into this size that I've got here, then I can, and you can, see where we're working a bit better. So I've added just a drop of acrylic ink into it, just a yellow, just to give it some colour. Certainly not enough to change the formula, the chemistry of the size. It's really just a splash of colour. So let's go back to where we were and see if we can see. Because we're working on paper, it will become tacky quite quickly, but you'll have enough time to work with it. So I'll just do that at the moment for this period, for this demonstration. More brush goes straight into the water so as it won't become dried out and sticky. And that, if you feel it now, you can just feel the tackiness, the stickiness of it. So that's good. So the next thing to do is to cut the leaf to the size that you want. It's always advisable to be precious with this, for want of a better word. I can't think of the word. There's a piece there that I could use which is big enough for the areas that I want, but I wanted to show you how to cut a piece of the leaf. So I'll fold that over out the way onto this. So there's a sheet here, and I can just get my knife underneath it, and I'm very gently going to lift that so you can see how fine that is, and just slowly transfer it onto here. Trying to get it flat. It's coming. Right, so I've got it flat on the cushion. So the knife is what we use to cut the leaf. It's very, as you can see, it's very delicate, very thin. Try not to breathe too heavy on it because you'll just blow it away. So I'm going to just cut a strip off the whole sheet. So as you can see, I cut it by using the whole length of the knife, and that will cut it. So now the bit that I don't need, I'm going to put back in the pad, the wallet here. Fold it over. So that's safe at the moment, out the way. And again, I'm not going to be using the whole of that, so I'm going to cut it some more. So I'm just moving it round, and I'm going to cut sort of squares off it. This isn't gold, by the way, this is a metallic leaf. So again, they put the blade flat against it, cut it. Flat on the cushion, drag it through. You're not cutting the cushion, you're just cutting the leaf. So I'll cut 3 sections of that. Anything I'm not working with at the moment, I'll just put back in this booklet. So I'm going to work on one at a time. So put that back, put the cover over it, and then I can move this out the way. So I've got the metal leaf here now, and again I'm going to cut it. Taking my artwork, I'm going to look at the shape and compare the size of the 2 areas and see what's the best way to do it. So I could probably just apply that over that area and see what happens. So what I need to do now is lift that piece of leaf and transfer it flat onto the prepared sized area. So the way we do that, we have the gilder's tip. See, I blew that and it almost blew it away just by saying tip. But so what, as a brush on its own, it won't lift it. It needs a little bit of, for want of a better word, oil or a little grease, but very, very little. The traditional way of applying that is just from your body, from your head. So if I just run that over my forehead, and if I just touch that, that will lift it as such. So then I can take it over here, put it on the air. See, that those P's are just lethal. Normally I wouldn't be talking when I'm doing this, but obviously it's a demonstration, so I am. So I'm just going to position this over that area. So that's on. Moving these out the way for the time being. And I'm going to take a small piece of tissue paper, which I have somewhere in here. You could even use one of the leaves from the pad that you have, that the leaf comes in. Then taking the burnisher, be careful not to stick the tissue paper to any exposed sized area, otherwise you'll be sticking that down onto your size. You'll be sticking the tissue paper onto the size. So I'm just, with the burnishing tool, just pressing that into position there. That's okay. Yep, that's looking all right. So I need another small piece here just to cover that area as well. So go back to the cushion. Move the artwork out the way for a second. With the knife I'm going to lift one of these smaller pieces of leaf onto the cushion. Put the others away. So I can bring the print, the artwork back and look at the size of it. And I want to turn that around a little bit now, so lift it and then drop it back down. I mean, I could use the whole of that, but I'm a bit stingy, so I won't. So I'm going to cut that and lift that and just pull it away. That I'll just put over there out the way for the time being. It's those, when I'm talking, it's my P's that sort of lift it, lift the thing. So again, gilder's tip, lift it over, push it to one side for a bit, and then adjust where it's going to drop. Then going back to the piece of tissue paper, drop that on and burnish it on. Now at this point, if there's just a small area that you've missed, you'll find that the size is just a little bit tacky and sticking to this tissue. which isn't a problem. It just gives an indication that you've missed a little bit. And I'm not having that problem there, so that's looking okay. So let's just move things away for a second. And I'm just going to burnish a little bit harder with the burnishing tool now. So we've got that piece of leaf applied to it. So to remove the excess leaf, I take a fairly stiff clean brush, and I'll start just brushing the areas where the leaf is loose. So the excess you could save. You could start saving this and use this at some. Last thing I want to do is cough with this around. Save the scraps and use those for something in the future. Some sort of crazy gilding, quite easily done. And then I'll just brush it a little bit more rigorously. And there we have it. We have those areas which are gilded. So we've got these areas to do. I'm going to go ahead and carry on with that, and then we'll have a look at the final print. So you can see here the finished piece of work. I've added some more watercolour to these areas here because I think it just needed that link between the metallic leaf, which is these, and the rest of the work. If I can tilt it and it catches the light, you'll see the metallic effect of the leaf. So that's it. I hope you'll join me again at some point for another of these demonstrations videos. Thanks for watching.